Alright, so I think I've made enough Smash videos, at least for the time being. I got a solid 50-60 subscribers after my Luffy video and my collab with Mr. Ninja Star, so shoutouts to Mr. Ninja Star if you haven't checked him out. And shoutouts to my new subscribers who probably subscribed for my anime videos and then they just saw me upload like 3 Smash videos. I'm sorry, Smash for Switch was just announced, I couldn't do anything about that. Anyway, this is Dr. Apolly. I don't mention that a lot in my anime videos, but anyway, this is Dr. Apolly. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Alright, let's get to it. Seven Deadly Sins, to me, was amazing the first 10 episodes. It was fun, timeless, funny, and had a lot of really cool action scenes. I thought it was gonna end up being around an 8 or 9, possibly one of my favorite shonen anime of all time. And then around the halfway point, it switched to a really bad, pretty cliche anime. It begins to think it's a really serious show, but it just ends up being bad. I don't really care for Bond's backstory with Elaine, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I didn't find it impactful at all whatsoever. Especially not enough to have an entire episode focused on it. I don't care about the king enough for me to care that he suddenly realized that he's fighting his misunderstood brother the entire time. There just isn't enough emotional build-up within the narrative for me to care about these characters and like their backstories at this point. Now I do understand that the anime skipped a lot of moments in the manga, and to my knowledge there were multiple directors for many of the different episodes within the first season. I can believe this because a lot of the episodes felt off rhythm compared to the ones earlier on, so it does imply that there were multiple people working on the direction for this first season. Yeah, fixing this issue would have helped. The lack of coherent direction is a fault that could have been handled better, I do agree with that. But I don't think that's the main problem I have with the show. It's mainly the actual content that bothers me. After Meliodas went full demon mode against that guy in a somewhat anticlimactic fight, the show lost all sense of tension, fun, and badass moments. Before we had Meliodas catch a spear from 2 kilometers away and throw it back pinpointing Gilthunder's head. That was a crazy moment, and it was only in episode 2. It was also a nice transition to help build up Gilthunder and Meliodas' eventual confrontation. The same sort of thing can be said for Meliodas and Bond's reunion. They literally broke apart a shield completely on accident that was meant to hold fucking dragons while playing the most intense game of patty cake I've ever seen. This was hilarious, pure, unadulterated fun. Quirky, witty writing like this had me fall in love with the series for the first 10 episodes. But then the show takes some weird, serious tone shift, which needless to say I wasn't a big fan of. I just couldn't get myself to care for Bond and King's whole beef. Elizabeth got especially annoying at this point. She was basically rendered down to Lucy Heartfilia levels of useless. Honestly, I'd argue she's even worse. She just became like Orihime from Bleach. Just a useless damsel in distress who yells, "Meliodas-sama!" Just like how Orihime couldn't help but yell, "Kurosaki-kun!" every 3 minutes.
Meliodas-sama! 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 Kurosaki-kun! 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 Kurosaki-kun!
But like seriously, the whole Elizabeth getting captured was just cliche damsel in distress. It was really boring and felt kind of out of place considering how lighthearted the show was going before. The show presented itself as just a lighthearted, fun anime until around episode 10, where there's this drastic tone shift that just felt really out of place to me. The series suffers from some sort of identity crisis. It was just a really weird dichotomy that was going on through the show at this point. Actually, scratch that. I don't think that it was after the fight where this drastic tone shift happened. I think it was this very moment. Right here. Right after Meliodas fights Bond, and then he stands up, and then he gets all the citizens out of there, because all the Holy Knights are gonna come. That was the moment the tone shift happened, and that's when the show became far less appealing to me. Well anyway, after she got kidnapped, there are a bunch of really OP Holy Knights there for some reason. And the 7 Deadly Sins all of a sudden looked really weak, even though they were built up to be really strong for the past 10 episodes. Like, I'm not into all these power scaling Goku versus Superman versus battles anymore at least, but there like really felt like there wasn't any consistent power scaling you could go by. Like Meliodas, unless he uses his demon form, is like the weakest member of the Sins, it feels like. And then Diane and the King seem really strong. Bond is just unbeatable, like you literally cannot beat him, he's immortal and he just keeps on taking your power. Then suddenly, they fight the Holy Knights and they're completely outclassed. How am I supposed to believe that these characters are an actual threat when they're getting outclassed by the people who supposedly were afraid of them? And then Meliodas doesn't really use his like full power, his demon mode, ever. Which I'm sure that's going to be explained at some point, obviously, but it just felt like there wasn't really any consistent power scaling you could go by for the Sins, at least for me. I know some other people had this problem too. I talked to some other people who watched this show, they felt the same way I did. I feel like this is an issue that's probably going to be settled down within the next season, so I will give the show that. But oh man, I gotta talk about this moment. Right when Hawk was about to die, they pull a fairy tale and they bring him back to life because the show was just too scared to kill him. Right when I was about to start caring about the show again, because something I actually cared about was happening, they just pull a fairy tale and they just don't kill him. You can't see me, but I'm physically shaking my head right now. Well, now on one end, I'm actually kind of glad that Hawk is alive. He was one of my favorite characters in the show, and that's no question. I seem to really like all these troll characters in anime, like I have no idea why. Like, that pervert doll from Bleach and Mineta are my favorite characters in Bleach and My Hero Academia, respectively. I don't know why, I just really like them. But in terms of writing and engaging your viewer into the narrative, this was a horrible decision. Complete bull. I would have started treating this show like the serious series it was trying to be, but now I'll continue to struggle mentally accepting the fact that this show is supposed to be a serious show. Why didn't you kill off this fodder character? Not only would this raise tension, but it would show that your story is to be taken seriously and that characters can actually die. But it just left me really unsatisfied. Now I feel like the show is too scared to take any risks and even kill off fodder characters. Now Hawk obviously isn't complete fodder, like I'm not just gonna say that he's complete fodder, but he's definitely not a major character. Seeing Hawk always run into fights, all super confident, and then get his butt kicked is like one of the most hilarious, best parts of the entire show. The enemy is always so disappointed. Like, what is this lowly pig doing trying to talk to me? Why are you trying to flex on me? And then they just dispose of him in the most disheartened way. It's absolutely amazing. You can feel the dissatisfaction coming from these villains. They are just totally not impressed. Like, it is one of the best parts of the show. I'm just not gonna lie to you. That's definitely one of the best parts of the show in my opinion. So to see that trait of his go against him and like him die from it, that would have been crazy. But you know, instead he just had to have the plot armor and he was not gonna die. Like, I would have almost forgave the show for the past 10 episodes of just nonsense if they killed off Hawk. I know it sounds really sadistic, but I'm honestly almost at that point. At that moment, the anime proved to me that it was completely incapable of building any narrative tension. If Hawk is gonna survive, what makes me think there's any sort of tension for any of the other major characters? God forbid one of the Sins dying. Oh please, let's not talk about that last fight. That was almost a meme to me. And that last episode? Borderline parody. They tried wrapping up so many storylines in such a short amount of time, and it just ended up in a horrible mess. I remember it went something like Elizabeth couldn't join the rest of the Sins on their adventure in the very last episode, and then suddenly by the end of the episode, she was able to join them. Like, what? Am I supposed to feel anything from this? Like, I'm serious. What emotion am I supposed to be feeling at this point? I don't feel the weight of her leaving, or even sad to begin with because she was kinda useless. We don't get time to see how any of the Sins, especially Meliodas, react to this. I'm sure it would have been a big deal for him at least. So what emotion am I legitimately supposed to be feeling at this point when she reunites with the Sins? Oh yeah, this guy right here, King Arthur, what's his purpose? They spend a good 5 minutes hyping him up just for him to get bodied and just be completely irrelevant. Ugh. You know what, I'm just gonna come out and say it. The first half of the show, I was ready to give it a 10 out of 10. Straight up, it was 10 out of 10 worthy for me. I remember telling my friends that this show had the potential to be one of my favorite anime of all time. Right up there with One Piece and Hunter x Hunter. The first 10 episodes really just took my breath away. But the second half was just such a disappointment. If I'm being honest, I'd probably rate it a 3, maybe 2 out of 10. Like, I actively disliked it. The season overall ended up being like a 6 or 6.5 out of 10. So, 7 Deadly Sins is just a bunch of wasted potential to me. I haven't watched much of season 2 yet. I plan on binging that once it's done, so I'll probably revisit the show on my channel. But so far, season 2 doesn't look too promising. Granted, I've only watched the first 4 episodes, but it still does not look very promising at all to me. I heard season 1 tried to go over 100 chapters in 25 episodes, which is just insane to me. So maybe if season 2 follows the manga better, the season overall will just be better. I'm not going to leave off the video like that though. I don't want to shed light on only one part of the story. I'm going to tell you how this season could have been handled better, at least in my opinion. If we had more of those awesome, fun, funny moments from the first half, before moving on to the second half, letting the sins develop and grow on us more, I may have enjoyed the latter half more. I understand they were working on a time crunch and only had so many episodes to work with, but maybe spend more time building the characters, and then the transition to the more serious tone would have felt more natural. The cliffhanger from season 1 could have been Elizabeth getting kidnapped. I don't know how much manga content they had to work with and what they skipped, but I feel like I would have enjoyed the season more that way. One good thing they did was not end the season in the middle of the whole castle siege, because that would have just resulted in a horrible fuck you, go read the manga ending. As I said, proper direction could have helped a lot. If things turned out like this, it could have possibly been one of my favorite shonen animes. But I guess not all things go your way. Again, I do plan on binging season 2 when that finishes, so let me know if you want me to revisit the series when that happens. Until next time. Monkey D. Luffy is the most popular character in One Piece, and for very good reason. He's overflowing with personality, a badass, and layered with thematic and symbolic depth. You simply can't have a series running 20 years long and be this popular without an amazing main character.